So let's talk about our main segment now. So this could be multiple episodes, and I'm really excited to talk about it because I think it could help a lot of girls who are trying to successfully transition and integrate themselves into society. Really, that was my goal when I started to transition, just to be able to live my life as a normal human being. I don't want any extra attention on me when I go outside or any of those things. So there's no one way to be transgender, and if you like it, we love it, honestly. But this segment is for people who want to have a seamless transition into society, especially if they're corporate girls like us or are in a red state like me. This type of advice is going to be really helpful. And so we want to talk about some beginner trans girls' mistakes that we see that I think are really, really preventable. I'm going to invite Dani to share her first one.
Okay, yeah, because I think since mine is a little more macro, we'll be able to work down. So, my first mistake to avoid is not planning for your transition. And what I mean by that is setting up a roadmap and goals for yourself. So, Nalia, think about it this way. What would make a successful transition, right? So have that in your head. If you want to plan for a successful transition, now you invert it. So, what would make for an unsuccessful transition? Okay.
What would, yeah, okay.
So now we're thinking, okay, what would I do if I don't want to pass? What would I do if I don't want self love? So, like, okay, I wouldn't take my medication every day, or I wouldn't practice meditation. I wouldn't get started early on laser. So, invert that thinking so you know exactly what you need to do. And from there, you can start planning out when you do it. I mean, obviously, laser is really fucking expensive. So, here's an example. I know it's so fun to buy new clothes, but babe, you're gonna end up never wearing 90% of that shit. So
That is real. That is so
this
real.
is what you need to do. Every time you buy something on fucking Shein or Amazon, whatever that total cost was, you put double, okay, double that amount away to pay for laser. You need to make
Yeah.
that contract with yourself. That is going to
Yeah.
help you so much. Um, I'll stop there. There's a lot more that I want to get into, but I'll let you jump in there.
Something that flows into that very quickly. I think that changing your pronouns before you're actually ready is something that is going to traumatize you. And so here's what I mean by that. So changing my pronouns was the very, very last thing that I did. My friends were begging me to change my pronouns by the time that I actually did it. Why? I started out with laser hair removal. Then I started getting good at makeup. My hair started getting long, and they're like, "Oh, what's happening? Are you identifying differently? What's happening?" And I'm like, "No, no, not yet, whatever." Then I get facial feminization. And after I do that, I start dressing female full time. And they're like, "Okay, are you like, what's happening?" Because at this point, if you're going into the men's bathroom, people are having weird reactions. I remember going to Vegas and having full makeup on, no laser, and like androgynous clothing, and walking into a men's bathroom, and there was like a bathroom attendant there, and the bathroom attendant was like, "Hey, women don't belong here." He yelled at me for being in the men's bathroom, and at that point, I don't think I even had my facial femme yet. So it's not like I was super unclockable, and even to this day, I don't consider myself that way. But there were so many successful indicators on my body and my energy that at that point it started becoming impractical to hang out in men's spaces. And so once I got to a point where people are like, "Okay, like we gotta get moving," then I made a post and I'm like, "Hey, I'm officially she her." And everybody naturally in my life just started doing it. At work, I didn't even make a announcement. Like, people just started gendering me that way, and then everybody got insecure about like misgendering me, and then it just started gendering me correctly. Like I never asked anybody. There are no pronouns in my bio. I'm in a red state. I'm in a conservative industry, and this has been completely seamless for me, and it was seamless even before I got my facial feminization. So the advice is don't change your pronouns too fast, because when you do that, people misgender you, and then all of a sudden you feel stupid because you said something and then people are contradicting it.
The most underrated part of that, the energy. When you walk into a room, you need that energy and you need to own it. And people are going to be able to read that. So just wanted to echo
Yeah.
that. That one's huge. Um,
Yep.
so to build off that, we should define what a plan is, right? So a plan is you're in the present moment, and this is a statement of your intentions. So it's making a wise choice about this moment and the
Yes.
only moment that you get. So we talk a lot about living in the moment here on this podcast. So
Yeah.
when it comes to planning your roadmap, hold your plans lightly. So make it
Yeah.
so they bend, but they don't break. So, kind of like how you started slowly, what I would do is I would wait. So, this was when I started living in the suburbs. I would wait till it's probably like 9 or 10 o'clock. I would go to CVS presenting female. So, like, way off hours just to buy a Coke Zero. So, like, I would go drive to CVS and just like practice that and practice having that energy. And it gets so much easier when you are able to go out in low pressure situations and then constantly build on that. Like the small wins that you have, it's just going to be like a snowball effect. And you're going to be able to build
Yeah.
on each and every one of those.
Extremely well said. Extremely well said. And the part of it I want everybody to hear from Danny is, besides all of it was good, was Colby stuff. The part of it I want people to hear from Danny is low pressure situations. Like get yourself in low pressure situations and practice presenting as feminine and see how people react. I think that's genius.
So, just to add to that, I have super high anxiety, and like I am a compulsive planner. Like I'm the type that'll get to Logan Airport like 4 hours before the flight. Like that is me to a T. And some that I've had to really work on is that even doing all this planning, it will never bring me complete peace because there's always going to be more future to plan for. So this is
Yeah.
why you implement that plan where it bends but it doesn't break. So one of the things that I heard recently that like really made me stop and think was that we get about 4,000 weeks if we're lucky. So if I say that I have 2 hours to do like the dishes or laundry, like that's just an expectation of what I have to do with that time. We never really have time in our possession and we never know what comes next. So that's why it's so important to stay in that moment. And that's going to save you a lot of heartache early on when you're in these early stages of transition. Because, like, there's so many beautiful girls out there. Like, look at Trace Lissette, Carmen. But, like, you're 2 weeks on hormones and how long have they been transitioning? It's a
Yeah.
transition is a lifelong thing and you're just getting
Yep.
started. So you need to live in the moment and give it time.
Yep. Okay. Cool. So that was two things out of like six that we have. So you want to go next with your next one?
Yes. So my second mistake here is holding expectations and being entitled. So when you're holding expectations, you are literally creating a hostage situation for yourself. You're sending like this implicit message of that my conditions need to be met for me to be truly happy. Um,
Yeah.
and if they're not being met, then like bad shit is going to happen. But in reality, you just need to let that go. You need to let go of the hostages. Nothing will ever come to you when you demand it. You need to
Yeah.
remember that the people around you are also going through a transition. So to expect them to fall in line with your pronouns or like like however you want to envision your life, like that end goal, like it's going to take time for the people around you to get used to that as well. So give them grace and don't hold expectations around that. Like one of the things that pisses me off the most, Lily on TikTok doing these fucking like tirades with the waiter, like you are you are creating a vacuum of hate for this person and you're making an issue out of nothing. And
Yeah.
you are walking with such a sense of entitlement and you can't walk with entitlement. You are literally owed nothing. So that will be my second mistake that I'm going to say here. Do not do that. You're going to set yourself up for failure.
In the wild, most people are not misgendering you because they're trying to be mean. The fact of the matter is, there is a quick calculation going on in their head as to whether you're a male or female. It's subconscious. And if your transition isn't far enough, they are not gendering you correctly. Now, you could cry about it, you could get mad about it. We all have those feelings, but ultimately it is your responsibility to solve that situation. You cannot browbeat somebody into thinking that you are something when you don't give whatever it is that you're trying to give. It's just common sense. I know that hurts. I know that there are disparities between, wealthier, privileged transgender women and people who don't have privilege. I get all of those things, but life isn't fair. Get a helmet, deal with the reality right now, and make strategic choices to get you to where you want to be. But if you're not where you want to be, that's okay. That doesn't make you any less of a person or worth any less. People have inherent value and you have a lot of things in your life to offer, but you cannot allow the truth to be wielded against you as a weapon. That's not what it intends to be. It's feedback so you can make yourself better.
Damn, mic drop. Um, so this is such like a heavy tough love episode here. But
Yeah.
just to piggyback off that, you need to be honest with yourself, right? And that is going to lie in the relationship of understanding that we do not want to hear the truth. So,
Yeah.
honesty will lie in understanding how deeply afraid we are of the truth. And you need to be willing to live without knowing the future. Like, it's fucking scary. Like, I was holding back from transitioning for the longest time just because of all this uncertainty. But when things are scariest, that's exactly when you need to jump in with both feet. Because
I agree. And I'm not sitting here like moralizing against anybody. I'm in the middle of my process. There's a lot I want to do. And, I fare better than some, but not better than others. But my voice is something that could probably use some work. And I want to work on it at some point. But I'm not sitting here feeling bad about it. But if I'm talking in a deep voice and I'm hungover and somebody says third to me, I'm not gonna blow a gasket. I won't because it's not worth that. And honey attracts more bees than vinegar, right? So as you're navigating your friends, family, people in public, you want them to be on your side. Jumping down their throat about not gendering you correctly or what have you is not going to help you with that. Like people will want to get it right for you if you are behaving in a way that is graceful and gives people grace. So make sure you're doing that.
yeah, you can't be delusional, right? So like think about like if you're on a walk at night and you see a stick, but you think it's a snake, which is more applicable for you being in Phoenix, right? So,
Yeah.
but like that is a distortion of perception. And
Yeah.
now you can build on that, like the distortion of mind and distortion of view. All these things are going to keep building on top of each other. And the point that I'm coming to is that there are people in America who still don't believe in evolution, despite having all this knowledge behind it. And we, just because we are certain about something, does not mean it's true. So do
Yeah.
not have delusion about where you are, right? So
Ate ate that up. That's the fucking truest shit ever. So true.
you need to you need to go through that door of honesty with yourself.
Yeah.
You need to get to the other side, and you need a
Yep.
long, hard look in the mirror. And that's all I have to say on that.
Okay. So my second one for, transgender mistakes, and the fourth one in this series is not incorporating the female gaze in styling yourself. So what do I mean by that? So we watched that video earlier with the trans woman who was a lawyer, and she looked gaudy, she looked tacky, she looked disproportioned. And that happens a lot when you are at the beginning of your transition. Some of it you can't help, but most of that stuff I think could have been helped. Um, so ultimately, most of us were socialized with a male brain. So when we think about what is attractive, what we often think about is idealized, sexualized images that men were fed about women being sexy. Some trans women are attracted to other women, so that's kind of what they wanted to see. Others of us, like me, grew up as gay boys and we're like, oh my God, we want to look like a drag queen or Beyonce or whatever. And so it distorts in our brain what an actual woman should look like. And so we end up coming off as too sexualized with, we put on breastplates that are way too big. Our makeup looks very strange and draggish. And if you want to go into space and pass, you can't do stuff like that. Now, I was guilty of all of those same things. What I think I should have done is utilize my female friends to help me craft an image. They could have helped me with makeup. They could have helped me find a push-up bra that actually looks like real boobs. They could have helped me with shapewear. They could have helped me with voice feminization. Like there's a lot of things that they could have helped me with, and they did help me with those things, but I was already a year into my transition when they started to chime in. So utilize your female friends, utilize transgender women that you respect, whether you find them online or you find them in real life. And also, like, don't just go into this journey buying makeup, for example, that you don't know anything about. I ended up spending thousands of dollars on makeup that I didn't need, that looked horrible on me, that I could have saved money on if I just went to Ulta and got swatched for a bunch of products. Like, I didn't realize that because I was so in my shame and so in my secrecy that I felt like I had to do it by myself. But I didn't have to, and I wouldn't have violated any sense of secrecy or shame if I just went and got swatched at Ulta. So very practical advice. Utilize females to craft your image and take their feedback seriously before you jump into what you think is going to look good.
I mean, yeah, definitely go to Ulta. That is a no brainer. Like, they are there to help you and they want to help you. So get an associate and, like, just get, like you said, you gotta get swatched. So that is a great piece of advice. Um, I remember going into this was probably 6 months or so before I started transitioning, and actually even probably longer before that. But I went into the Sephora at the Pru, and I was so in my shame, right? So I found like this big drag queen, and I was like, "Hey, can you help me?" And like that was like a very like calming experience. And like I was still fucking so nervous.
Yeah.
But like how we've talked about a little in this episode, like you can build on these things. And it's going to get easier and easier when you do the tough things.
Yeah, and people are a lot less judgmental about stuff like that than you think. Like it's not uncommon to see a man, you know, getting makeup these days. Like you should I know you can't just get rid of shame by intellectualizing it, but you shouldn't feel shame about that. Like nobody's like judging you for being, you know, presenting male visually and getting, you know, swatched and stuff like that. A lot of men actually do wear makeup. A lot of men who are on the internet, for example, wear concealer. I'm sure they got swatched for that. I know a lot of gay men that wear makeup. So it's just not as big of a deal. So don't treat it like it is.